I'm Louise Roe and welcome to this SheerLuxe panel chat on the huge topic of divorce. Currently 42% of marriages in the UK end in divorce and the number is declining, which is obviously great to hear, but the stark reality is that almost 1 in 2 of us that are married will get divorced, and this deserves a huge conversation. Specifically, the realities of separation, healing, co-parenting and managing a fragile relationship with an ex. Between candid stories and practical advice, we'll cover as much as we can, from the messy middle to the unexpected silver linings. Let me introduce our wonderful guests to give their perspective, survival tips and more, a lot more. Welcome to barrister and co-founder of Courney, Samantha Singer, writer and visual artist Stacey, she's going to be here in 2 minutes, and author and podcaster Sara Davison, aka the divorce coach. Ladies, welcome. Stacey is going to run in a minute. She's had a shocker on the train, but ladies, we've been chatting a little bit off air, and my gosh, are you a wealth of knowledge, advice, but also hope, I think. Should we dive right in, and either one of you can answer. Reasons for divorce. Are there any quote unquote good reasons ever? And what are some of them and what are some of the bad?
First of all, divorce is not something to be taken lightly. Not many people know, but divorce is actually the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one. So quite often that puts people off. Obviously, you don't want to rush into it if you can avoid it. So what most people do is wait and think about it and work through it. So that's important, to actually take the time out to work through your breakup and communicate as if you can save it before you rush headlong into it.
Would you advise with a third party? Try and figure it out on your own?
I think, first of all, you can do it amongst yourselves. So working out, I always say, the no regrets exercise that I created enables you to talk about what you love about your partner and the areas that you might want to improve, and then give each other steps so that you agree on a plan for the next, say, 12 weeks to get more clarity. Because if you're not sure whether you should stay or go, it's because you don't have enough clarity to make the best informed decision. So by talking about the things that aren't working and trying to fix them first, avoids getting into what is a real emotional roller coaster and also financial burden of going through a divorce as well.
And I mentioned in the introduction about at first I was like, yay, love wins, the statistics going down, but you said
well, there's not many people getting divorced at the moment because of the cost of living crisis. It's so expensive, right, to get divorced at the moment, that a lot of people can't afford to split 2 homes, have 2 mortgages. If you've got kids, you need different bedrooms. I mean, it's a lot of expense to take on. So most people are thinking, right now, I'm just going to stay put because I can't afford to separate.
I mean, we mentioned sort of amicable divorces versus the absolute opposite of that.
Obviously, most people set out intending to have an amicable split, but it can be a bit of a whirlwind where you're not in the driving seat, you're not always the one in control.
Get in here, you! Detention!
She's here.
She hasn't even taken a coat off for me.
Obviously, most people start out with the intention of keeping things amicable for a host of reasons. I mean, a toxic or particularly difficult divorce is going to likely be one of the more expensive ones. And that's something that my colleagues and I at Courney Legal are really keen to address. Because although clearly there's no substitute for specialist legal advice from a regulated lawyer, the majority of people don't feel they can access legal advice because of the expense, and that's a bit of a problem.
Can you tell us about the amazing website and resource that you've created?
We think, the girls who created Courney Legal with me, that the major challenge that a lot of divorcing people face is that they don't start with step 1, they finish with step 1, and step 1 is education. So you can either do your educating of yourself at the beginning, or you could end up very well educated, but wishing you'd known what you'd known at the start. And so we have created a audiovisual smorgasbord of resources aimed at educating the people who need it about separation and divorce. It's a bit like having a lawyer best friend. Instead of the doom scrolling, you now have a hub of resources. So we're really keen to let people know that there is support of a variety of types out there. It doesn't have to be a super expensive, super toxic experience.
It's a good one because it's subscription and it's fairly inexpensive.
Or free.
I met with Samantha for the first time last week when I was on a panel, and when she showed me this platform, I could feel my eyes welling up, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to cry. Because 5 years ago, that would have saved me so much heartache, emotional pain. I mean, just like I had a nervous breakdown during my divorce. And when she showed me this, it's very simple, but because it's animated and it's not actors, you can put yourself in the frame, whether it's financial abuse, with whatever situation it is. But it's also it just explains everything very clearly, the difference between arbitration, the difference between court, like building around this idea that how about you don't try and attack the whole wall, brick by brick. And one of the videos I found fascinating was that so many people end up in an argument about an argument, and they lose sight of why they're even arguing.
Yeah.
It could have started off with a custodial arrangement, and it'll end up in, oh, I hate the way you chew, you know, and it's, ugh. But when you're in that state, you can't do anything.
It's really been cathartic for us as practitioners who have dealt with literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this situation to basically download our brain and say, please come and take what you need. Because having those phone calls from people in distress, and you feel like 10 minutes of a call, you can really feel people starting to take some of that anxiety out of it. So it really is about empowerment and education in our view.
The next question, you know, it's talking about taking the power back and realigning, redesigning your life. Can I start with you? Because I feel like you know the assignment.
Well, I think it's really important that, you know, we don't see divorce as the end of everything. A lot of people see it as, gosh, what am I going to do? And that's how you might feel in the moment. But as Stacey and I know, you can get through it. You can come out the other side a lot happier, a lot more confident. But this is where you have to decide to step up. So you have the power. And a lot of the tools that I created to get me through my divorce and my books and my podcast are all about helping people take their power back, which starts with taking accountability. That if we're blaming our ex for everything and we're saying, well, they've done this now and oh gosh, look what they've done, we're not taking our power back because we're giving away the power to the ex by blaming constantly. So it's about taking accountability. And even I created this tool, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it went viral because it was clap for your ex. And people are like, I'm not clapping for my ex. And we're not condoning their bad behaviour if they have been like particularly difficult, as in my case. But clapping for your ex is basically like, yeah, okay, well, I'm where I am because I'm taking my power back. And thank you for the opportunity for me to grow, for me to step up, and for me to redesign my life just the way I want. So I start a lot of my webinars and trainings with, everyone, can we just clap for my ex? Because without him, we wouldn't be here, right? That's a fact. But now let's clap for your ex because that's the turning point to say, you know what? Thank you for this opportunity for me to grow and step up, because divorce can be a valuable life lesson, not just for us, but also for our kids.
You had Fiona Shackleton.
I did.
It's very famous.
Yeah.
The most probably famous in the UK divorce lawyer. And she told you to write a book because your ability to clap for your ex was so...
I wasn't clapping at that point, I can tell you. There was no clapping.
Seriously, that's how good you are at this. So you're all incredible.
Well,
That's why
it's
you're
taken
here
it's been a long journey, hasn't it?
It's been a long journey.
Hideous PTSD and all sorts of horrible things you've been through. But
we've been through it.
It's amazing. So, well, me not so much as you, different circumstances.
Different.
It's amazing how I just find that, you know, the strength in that and the bravery in it. And actually, this is not where I'm going to be left. I'm not here. I'm going to rise.
Screw you, watch this is my motto that was born when I was crying my eyes out on Balmoral Beach in Australia as I come out of our office there. And when someone's cheated on you, I don't know if anyone's experienced this, hopefully not, but when someone's cheated on you, everyone that knows that they were cheating before you did suddenly comes out and goes, oh, by the way, I'm so glad you know now because I found out. And it's like another dagger to the heart. And I'd gone to our Australia office and come out and I was crying my eyes out on Balmoral Beach. And I had this pivotal moment where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm in this beautiful place. I've got a beautiful son who's 1 at the time.
Gosh.
Screw you. Watch this. I'm going to turn this around and help other people. And I went on to create like online free support groups and one-to-one coaching and everything to support people who were going through what I was going through.
You ended up in my kitchen.
Yes, came to your kitchen, which was actually a highlight.
Your business. Well, you're just sort of on the ascent, weren't you?
Yeah, we've done lots of events.
We have, but they all started in my kitchen.
Yes.
With me crying.
Yes.
And you were like, I'm coming to see you. How cool is that?
Very.
What I love about this community is the kind of, you know, the togetherness of it. It's like we've been through all different types of scenarios and we come from different backgrounds, but okay, how about we can join together, and not in a fake way either. It's not like fake cheerleading. It's literally, I'm coming over. I don't know you. I'm coming over. I'm gonna order a taxi, and I'll be in your kitchen in about I don't know 2 hours. It was amazing.
That's incredible. Do you think divorce is still taboo?
Not the way you do it. You make it trendy, actually, I think. You make it cool. I mean, so you've got some stories on making it cool.
Didn't you do divorce outfits on social media?
Yes. I'm now in my Mormon stage. Is divorce taboo? I think it's taboo in so much that we as human beings put an awful lot of pressure on ourselves to be the dream, that, you know, whatever you've kind of grown up with, being conditioned by as a child, which is that Disney-fication.
Yes.
It will all be fine because actually I think this innate belief that a lot of us carry, and I definitely did, is that someone's going to save you. And marriage is a kind of form of saving. I mean, historically, women got married on repeat because it was a career. It was a way of survival, actually. It wasn't a career. It was a way of survival. Otherwise, they wouldn't eat and their children would be hungry. My mum's on her third marriage. How could you be bothered? It's quite nice, the third one, I do have to say.
How do you find people to marry, though, after the first one? The dating scene is absolute.
All that paperwork and changing her name 3 times. I was like, Mum, what are you doing? Make sure this is the last one. You're 75. I can't handle it.
Good for her.
This one's a keeper, she says. I'm like, all right, we'll see. But it was a career, and it was a lifeline for women. But you know, obviously, we're in different era now.
Although it wasn't that long ago, though.
It wasn't.
I think that it's 200 years ago.
Yeah,
that wasn't the case.
No, we're talking. There has been a seismic cultural shift in the kind of views and opinions and the attitude of others towards she's getting divorced. In the last 5 years. The taboo lies within us. So societally, sure, in the 50s and 60s, earlier, but the taboo is in us because it's a letting go of dreams and hope. And there's a certain grieving for that. And that's when the reinvention part kicks in.
And I think that's the fun part. You know, I think if you can get to that point where you're over the heartbreak, because you have to go through that grief cycle and you know, grieve the end of that relationship to really move forward. So you can't stuff that down because that pops up in all sorts of places otherwise. So you want to face that.
Use your own field.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
an awful app.
That's a very funny app that you told me about at
What is it?
conference.
It's a sex app.
Oh.
Field. Play the field.
Oh, right. Not dating, just sex.
Yeah.
Right.
Moving on. Sorry. I went on for about 10 minutes. It was like Pandora's box, had a panic attack. You know, that's when the fun kicks in. Sorry, the reinvention.
I think that is definitely the fun part. But you've got to get through that to get to the other side. But getting your sparkle back and redesigning your life just the way you want it now. So it could be 10 years since you were out and single, but actually trying to figure out, you know, who you are, not as a mum, not as a wife, not as a partner to somebody, but as a human being. I think there's a lot of fun in that.
You mentioned getting sort of back out there, sex apps. What advice would you give for women who are thinking about starting to date again, and also with a bit of a safety net, so they're not falling into the same trap and meeting exactly the same kind of man?
Yeah, because that's what we do. We
Have
repeat
therapy.
the same patterns.
Yeah.
Have therapy. Yeah, you have to go on a journey and mend yourself, fix yourself, and not make the same mistakes. I mean, a lot of women end up making kind of repeats behavior, which is often, you know, oh, I'll just go back with a nice, lovely narcissist because it worked out really well last time. But it is learned behavior. It's just something broken within us that we have to fix. I had 5 years of therapy after my marital breakup, and I wish I'd had it before. Would I have ended up married to him in the first place? Jury's out, who knows? But I would say the first thing you do before you even consider downloading an app is do some work on yourself.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, difficult because obviously I do see the repeat custom. It is a very sad situation. Sometimes with such a short gap, it's the same legal team. Just pick up where you left off.
Oh my
really?
goodness.
Yes,
Second divorce.
So,
Third divorce.
and third. So yeah, I can see that there must be the patterns.
Yeah.
We all know we all repeat our own mistakes
Yeah.
and wonder how we didn't see it coming.
But that's where I think getting outside help. I created an exercise, I don't know if I did it with you actually, design your ideal partner, which is basically not just looking at what we want, because everyone knows what we want. We know what we're attracted to. In fact, when I came into SheerLuxe office this morning, they were walking around saying, who's your ideal celebrity crush? And it's like, everyone knows what they want, right? I was like, oh, Gerard Butler, just if he's listening. Gerard Butler.
Babes, we need to chat.
Sorry.
No one else wants him. There's less competition.
Really? Anyway, moving on. But crikey.
Hilarious. But but we don't know what we need. A lot of us don't focus on that, and that could be someone that's emotionally stable or kind or thoughtful
Woke-tied,
or
yeah.
likes kids, or
Yeah.
loves dogs or whatever it is for you. So we've got to do the work, and then also having up to 5 must not haves is really important. So they're like red flags.
Those, because the red flag isn't always there, is
But
it?
you have to hone your radar, and that's the doing the work.
okay,
So hone the radar to spot them, and then the trick is not just knowing what they are, but being able to deploy your parachute and exit the building with immediate effect as soon as one of those things come up. Because what most of us do is like, oh, they'll be different with me when they get to know me, or they didn't mean it, or they're having a bad day. No, that's how you got into the last relationship that didn't work, right? So it's having the ability to go, okay, I'm out, which is really key.
And I know this will be on the
Very
notes,
well
guys, but
said.
can you just both share, well, all of you, the actual website or names of books, resources, just give me some places, because people are going to want to dig deeper into this.
Yeah, so my website's saradavison.com, and I share stories and tips every day on the Instagram, Sara Davison Divorce Coach.
Brilliant.
So I would give you our one, which is Courtney.legal.
And is that AY or EY?
That's EY.
Brilliant.
But there are
EY.
plenty, I should say, there are plenty of other resources, including free resources out there, like charities like Advice Now. So there are other places to go if you want to.
The thing that I have a real, bugbear with, which I drained through my savings on 3 lawyers because they all wanted blood. They wanted to go to court. When we go to court, I was like, who mentioned that I wanted to go to court? I don't want to do this. Can we just play nicely? Because he and I aren't actually arguing that much. When there is no resource, financial resource for the therapist and the lawyer, and okay, you've got your community of trusted friends, etc. But what do you do? What's the first thing you do? Like, where do you go? Because there will be women watching this who probably had a full bank account one day, and the next, their husband or wife or partner has cut the funds. So and they've got an empty bank account and they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Well, there are a number of solutions, but I mean, the first one obviously is that you need a trusted professional that you can work with, and there are a variety of types of professionals, obviously.
Even if you can't pay them.
But if you can't pay them, what I would say about that is it's a bit like any other really expensive or potentially really expensive service, which is start with your priorities and then say, this is my budget. And if you are speaking to someone where that doesn't match, then you feel empowered to go somewhere else or do your research. It is really difficult, and the worst case scenario is not being clear about your priorities in terms of what you want out of this professional relationship and your budget, and then finding your bank accounts down to zero, and you have no options, and it's like you've got nowhere. Your map, and you've got nowhere to go. So it is really, really difficult. But I think there are increasingly professionals in this space who actually want to help people without having an eye solely on profit.
Right.
That's because we are at I think an inflection point where people like you guys are doing this amazing job of saying things have got to change, and we can do that with a community. So well done.
Well done you. I mean, you set up Courtney Legal at your kitchen table with a full-time job, as a passion project.
It was,
as a passion business.
It's going to help a lot of people.
It really, really will.
We've got to democratize expertise in this space. Like we're doing with health and well-being, we've got to make divorce and family law one of those areas where we come together and share.
It's great to see legal professionals doing it, because obviously we have free support groups and things, which is great, but it's great to have one of the good guys on the legal side.
Well, thank you. I mean, I was trying...
That's why I jumped on her last night. Right, you're coming with me. I love you.
I had to come over to this side because I'm fairly sure I'm going to be shunned from those people.
Stop inching to the edge of that sofa.
Get back here. What are you doing, Miss Singer?
What about co-parenting? And do you have any practical advice?
Yes, I do. So
Sorry.
if it's amicable, then one, you can get divorced a lot more, you can do online and things like that. So there is a lower cost option. If it's not, then that's going to be expensive. Co-parenting is the same. You can co-parent if you're amicable and you have a healthy dynamic. So by healthy, I mean that if you want to, you can agree on things like screen time, bedtimes. If you are divorcing someone that's toxic, abusive, if you tell them, I want my child to go to bed at 7, they'll take that and weaponize it against you and do the opposite. So there is no co-parenting for a toxic dynamic, but you can do it very successfully with communication with a healthy dynamic. And that might mean stepping into your ex's shoes for a moment and not just thinking, this is my time, so they need to go away because it's my time. To get to where you want to be, it's small steps. It might be that you have one parent that's a little bit more nervous about it or anxious about not spending time with the kids, because I think that's one of the hardest things when you don't see your kids. As parents, we never sign up not to see our kids, right?
Especially mothers.
So understanding that dynamic and saying that if it is the mother saying that, can I have some screen time with them later? Can I FaceTime them? Saying yes rather than no, it's my time. Or because after a while they can wean themselves off that. But just trying to work together to create that situation at the beginning will help you get more of the time. I think that.
But if you're dealing with a true narcissist, somebody who is really, really unwell, personality disorder, somebody who is out to basically make your life utterly miserable, through the family court system, and you guys will know more about this, there's a platform called Wizard. And Wizard is a sort of, it's just, would you describe it as like a court monitored WhatsApp? So anything that goes on between you is logged. So for example, if something happens in the family courts and you all agree on X, Y, Z, the passport will be handed over to the mother on this date so she can go away and doesn't have to chase you. And he doesn't do it or she doesn't do it. The communication is logged. And at that point, if you've broken many of the kind of stipulations around the agreement, then you can go back to court and there's a whole kind of, you can articulate that far better. But it is a monitored communication, which I do think makes women particularly feel safer.
Yeah, but actually the justice at the end of it isn't necessarily there. So
it's not.
So
family courts are assessed.
I think if you are dealing with someone like that, though, there is hope, and I have successfully navigated this myself. You just can't agree on the small things. People talk about parallel parenting, which is the big decisions. That, to be honest, if you can't agree on screen time, you're not going to agree on what school they're going to. So that is not really possible, in my opinion. But you can take control back over what you can control, because you can't control what they're going to do. You can't control what they're going to say or how they're even going to behave with your children. You can control the environment that they're in with you, setting their morals and values, and just showing them by contrast, not bad mouthing, but contrast what's right, what's wrong.
Set it,
never bad mouth,
but set it a great example.
Yeah, and that is taking your power back, taking accountability. I see so many clients who are worrying about what their ex is doing. You can worry all you like, but it's not going to change it. It might be difficult, but there are things you can do to make sure your child learns that having one difficult parent actually isn't the end of the world. In fact, they can turn out to be much more resilient, and if given the right education, make better decisions later on in life.
I was going to say, trust in the fact that that child will grow up and be wise, hopefully,
as long as you've got
to learn from what you've shown them.
Yeah, and they will remember what you should try to do is center your child in your thinking, and that means to think about it from their perspective. And while they may have a view on what would be better, swimming on this day or something else on another day, actually the bigger thing for most children is going to be, I just don't want them to argue about it. So I think that the argument itself can become harmful. So really to center the child in your thinking and how you conduct yourself. Because future you and your future child will be looking back on this time.
I'm that child.
Yes.
So my parents divorced when I was 3, and there was so much shouting and physical stuff. My father's an alcoholic, and I remember it so clearly. And I will never forget the years that followed of my mother just criticizing him. And it made me feel a huge range of emotions from, it's my fault, I felt ashamed, I felt guilty. And then when I made the decision about the age of 10 that I never want to see him again, then all the emotions came on again. I took on board all of her anxiety because she shared it with me. There has to be boundaries, but parental boundaries. There has to be. You're not the child, you're the grown up. And although you feel triggered, you feel like your inner child is screaming and it's not fair, you have to deal with that. And that's why therapy for me is the first stop.
Gosh, it's very emotional, isn't it?
Yes.
And just remembering that the child is the most important part, and hopefully even the biggest narcissist will resonate with that to some degree?
No, because they are the child. They're the damaged child, you see,
Yeah,
and
there's
that's
no empathy.
Yeah.
They don't have empathy.
they've constructed their own reality from a a situation in their own childhood, and then that's become look, I'm not an expert, but I've read enough about it.
Well, you pretty are to me.
My ex is not a narcissist, by the way.
Okay. If you could share, and you've been doing this the entire show, but if you could share one piece of advice or learning with someone who is newly divorced, as you mentioned, there are people watching who are going through it right now, what would that one piece of advice be? Anyone who wants to jump in?
I would say it's not what happens to you that defines you, it's what you do about it that makes you the person you are. So whilst outside circumstances can be wreaking havoc on your life, you can take steps to take your power back, like we talked about earlier, and look at Courtney to get the legal advice and demystify slightly. Come on the free support groups, talk about it, get your emotions under control. You can take proactive steps. So I would say, don't worry that it's happening to you. And this is part of life. It's what you do next, and stepping up and taking your power back.
Great. Yeah, that was really powerful. I would say, with any major life event, you have to accept that it's going to be really, really hard, but that fundamentally blame is not a solution. That would be my input.
My advice is that your friends have limitations and they are not the experts in the field, and that their opinion and advice is well-meaning and from love, a place of love. However, it's through the lens of their own experience. And that is not your experience. Your experience is yours. So trusted advisors, day in, day out. Your friends are there for a cheer up wine and maybe a 3 a.m. disco moment, but they can't be everything for you during this period.
Sage advice. Thank you so much. So that's it for today. Thank you so much to my gorgeous, incredible guests. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and found it helpful in some way. We would love it if you could comment below, give us a thumbs up, and do subscribe if you haven't yet. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.